Evening, everyone. It is 5:30. I would like to call the study session to order, please. At this time, we will take any public comment that we have. Step up to the podium, Scott.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to report to you from my first commissioners meeting. That was this past Thursday. I was sworn in. It was more of an organizational meeting than anything else. A couple of the key points were state law says the chairman can be a one-year term or a two-year term. In the past, it's always been for the past, recently it's been a one-year term. The board took action to make that a two-year term moving forward for the Allegan County Board of Commissioners. And Jim Story was re-elected for that position, so he'll be the chairman of the board for the next 2 years. Under state law, the vice chair has to be a one-year term. And Dean Kappinger was re-elected to that position. The other major piece of business that we did was we had 2 applications for appointees for road commissioner, or applicants for road commissioner. Out of those 2 applicants, the one was the current road commissioner, which was Jim Rybicki, serving the east side of the county. And the other one was former county commissioner Rick Kane. Rick Kane was elected as road commissioner, so he'll serve the next 6 years as road commissioner, one of the 3 road commissioners representing us. That's about it. The rest of it was just organizational stuff. We have another meeting Thursday, so we'll get more accomplished. I just wanted to point out to your board or your council, on the second Monday of every month, so tonight, I have 4 jurisdictions with meetings, so I won't be at this one every second Monday. Perhaps most of the 4th Mondays when you guys meet, I'll be here. But I give you all my card. If there's anything that needs attention, quicker attention, or please just give me a call, email, whatever, and I can rearrange my schedule to try to accommodate. So, do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, moving on down to the next item is roundtable discussion amongst council members. Anybody has anything to discuss? Okay, go ahead, Dolores. Or Delora, please.
I got something in the mail from the Michigan Association of Mayors about a 2023 community exchange. I have been very much in favor of this for a long time. So brought it up, I think, the first year that I was on council and every year thereafter. But with COVID, we weren't able to do anything. So basically, it's like a group of our city council members that would exchange with another like community. So I don't know if anyone would be interested in doing that, like going to another community, seeing how they operate. But I'm going to hand this to Joel. This needs to be returned by February the 1st. So just something to think about.
Okay, thank you.
Can we just have a small discussion? Are other council members? Thank you, Parker. Are other council members interested in this type of thing?
It says
Probably be interesting.
that would be Teresa, wouldn't it?
No, it's they call it mayor's exchange, but it's really city council exchange. So the way it typically works is a select few members from here, or all of you, depending on how your schedules work out, go visit. That city hosts us, shows us around their town, gives some updates on some projects, allows for some back and forth dialogue, and then we would reciprocate and host them here, show them around, have some back and forth dialogue. I partook in one of these in my previous town I was in. However, we had someplace in Wisconsin where Sargento cheese is from. They reached out to Holland and wanted to know Holland's way. Not sure what the connection was, but so we hosted them, and then we also did Midland. The Sargento cheese one was a lot more fun because they brought coolers full of cheese as a gift. And I was like, nice, we're getting free cheese. Maybe we can get free drugs from. So The only reason why I'm asking is, I want to make sure before, I try not to take direction from one council member. I like to take direction from the council, so,
I would participate.
Yeah, depending on schedule,
Yeah.
I'd participate.
so you guys are okay if I fill this out and submit it and get our name in the hat?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want something like, Dolores like, hey, this is a great idea, go do it, Joel. I fill this out, and 6 of you are like, why'd you do that? No. So I will work on this. I'll get this submitted for us. Thank you, Dolores, for sharing it with us.
We discussed HDC's proposal to us. I don't remember where we landed. We had a lot of discussion. Where did we land? Did we give a time frame? What was our course of action?
Thought it was we have to kind of hear from SHPO and see where it could work to still maintain it as a historic district under the Michigan Public Act. And I don't know if we've started to reach out to SHPO again and.
So, yeah, so I understood at the end of the discussion at your last meeting, staff was directed to reach out to SHPO and set up a time for SHPO to come out here to meet with the HDC members, go through their recommendations, including their final recommendation, and continue that dialogue. So I emailed them before the holidays. SHPO is a division under the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, and the MEDC shut down over the holidays. So they just returned back to work January 9th today. I've been in some contacts today with some people from the MEDC. Alan Higgins was one of the people that I emailed from SHPO to see if they're interested. He did respond to the email over the holidays and said he was gonna check with some other folks to see if they could bring a contingent. I offered for them to come out in the afternoon. I'd take them out to dinner on my dime just to thank them for driving out from Lansing for a night meeting. And so that is, where we are. We're waiting for Alan to respond with, what works for them.
Great.
I appreciate the topic coming up. I think there's more components to this than just the CLG funding. Is council landed on, there were really 3 recommendations, and then there was an option for a 4th. Have we landed on support to continue with the HDC and look for reforms? And, I certainly support collaboration with the CLG program, but there's a lot of other topics there. Have we landed on that as an option? Is that something council is in support of?
For me, I want to hear what SHPO has to say, but I am inclined to go with HDC's recommendation, the study group's recommendation. That seems like the best way forward for us, but I want to hear what they're going to come back with as well.
For me, it's not just CLG, it's also this other tax credits that you could get even as a resident, not as a commercial building, that I don't want to just forego. I want to know what is the requirements if we maintain a historic district that meets that act. What can we do inside of that? How can we loosen up the standards and still maintain that? And if we can't, do we just go to a demolition-only ordinance and skip having all this extra rigmarole? Is kind of where I'm at, is I don't want to have a big stick with no carrot.
I forget the exact order of the recommendations, but the first 2 options were kind of the boundary conditions of either keep things the way they are or get rid of the HDC altogether. Have we kind of moved past those options then, and we're really settled on, well, we've got to reform, let's work through that process? It seems to be what I'm hearing, but I just want to I don't know if we need a formal motion to carry that forward in the regular meeting, or, but I think giving HDC that sort of, hey, yeah, we want you to do this work, we appreciate you doing this work, let's figure out what we can do here. I think that would be a good message to send.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like we need to do something. I don't think we can leave it the way it is, and I don't think just walking away is the right answer either. So I think making some wise changes is probably our best move.
I'm inclined to agree. It's three of us at least. I don't know if you find that helpful, Mike, to bring back to HDC this communication, or if there's more you'd want to know.
I think they're gonna wait for the meeting to kind of see how that goes, and
Okay.
I thought we kind of communicated that was the direction when they were here last, was that to get SHPO back out, go through their proposal and see what works, what doesn't. And then that way, at least I feel more confident in going one direction or another once I have that information. I'm inclined to completely gut the historic district still and just say, I'm done with it. And I'm inclined also to say, as long as we do some reforms, I can keep it, but I need those reforms to still have a carrot. If they don't have the carrot, then I just feel like we're putting people into an HOA where they have no benefits of the HOA. It's just, hey, you gotta do these type of improvements if you need to get a building permit. But if you don't, you don't. And I think that could even lead to even more issues if, say, you gonna do windows and you're gonna put on a porch. Well, now that needs a building permit. Now, those windows, are those gonna have to go through approval and be historically accurate? Are they not?
Yeah, because then we're right back to where we started,
Yeah,
if we do that.
So I still have to think about it a bit more to say whether I want to go with their proposal, but I also need to hear from SHPO to see what's required under the act and kind of do a good review of that.
I thought the language was, if you had to pull a building permit, then you have to go through HDC or get approval. If you don't.
And that's what I'm
changing a
talking
window.
about, is if they're doing a
If they're-
porch add-on and changing their windows, and they want to change slightly the size of something or move a window because they're doing a porch add-on,
Yeah.
then they're gonna have to go through SHPO, and now all of a sudden, are they gonna be required to have historically accurate windows, or do they go do the windows first, put in a window in the spot that they want to remove,
I would
and
say,
then do
Ask
the
forgiveness.
porch?
I would say one of the concrete recommendations that we saw from HDC was this, if it's modern materials that provide the same appearance as what exists today, that was one of the big reforms that you saw in expectations. The, using the building permit process and leveraging existing, resources in our organization, that was more of a, organizational, how things would operate, as opposed to a separate application with a separate meeting to make that process more efficient for homeowners. But I think one of the major changes, reforms that we would see in terms of standards would be allowing modern materials. And again, coming back to the CLG communication we got during the study, the direction we got from CLG was the community decides. So if the community decides that modern materials are acceptable so long as the appearance looks the same. So in your example with the windows, if they're the same kind of window, if they have the same appearance, but they use modern materials, I think that was, again, that concrete recommendation from HDC. And that I think is an important discussion point to have with the CLG. But to Roger's point, yeah, there's also that piece of, well, the building permit could be used to make that building permit process could be used to make that thing more efficient, the HDC approval.
Go ahead, Delora.
Joel, correct me if I'm wrong. You had sent those recommendations to SHPO, correct?
Correct.
And they had come back and said, if we followed that recommendation regarding the
Yeah.
building permit, that would kind of take us out of?
That is the word, or the email, the letter, the response that we got back from SHPO. So I just want to, for some clarification, the HDC report and attachments was shared with you at your November 14th meeting, I think it was, and then again at the December 27th meeting. So you can go back, those packets are online, you have those emails still, you can click. There's on page 14, it says HDC final recommendation, and this was typed up by the HDC, not by staff. So I assume, and I could be wrong, but a final recommendation is, this is our preferred alternative. This is the way we're going. And so it says, the Allegan City Historic District Commission proposes a new set of practices in order to create a better impact on our community. Number one, remove the strict guidelines pertaining to exterior projects. It has a paragraph beneath that. Number 2, the HDC ordinance should be rewritten to show that any exterior project on a structure within any of our historic districts that require a building permit must go through an approval process. So that's enlarging the size of a window, enlarging the size of a doorway opening. And then number 3, community outreach and involvement. And then they have a 2-step process on how to do those 2 things. So it was that final recommendation. The whole report was shared with SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, but it was that final recommendation that they zoomed in on. And again, I could be wrong, but when I have had conversations with SHPO and they have used the phrase, it's the community to decide their guidelines, I think they're saying, if you want to be a historic district commission as approved under Public Act 169, that's awesome, you can do it. But if your community guidelines say you don't want to do that, that's also awesome, to each their own. But you will not be a historic district commission per PA 169, and you won't receive any of the monetary benefits, which is, those residents can get those state historic preservation tax credits through the state of Michigan. Nor does your community have any protections where someone can appeal a decision and the state can defend your reasoning in court. So I'm almost wondering if maybe it might be well for us to have a joint meeting with the HDC and have SHPO here and have a dialogue directly with them. I will tell you, they put a lot of effort into this process over the past year. They had 2 community meetings. I attended one, Parker attended the second one. I do not believe the majority of the people that were at those community meetings were in favor of keeping the current HDC as it is. I would offer that I was not at the city council meeting back in October, this would have been almost 2 years ago, when this board talked about an ordinance to disband, or not disband, but an ordinance to revoke the local HDC ordinance, and this room was packed. I don't think the people that were vocal at that meeting attended any of the HDC meetings since then. We now have 2 vacancies on the HDC. So yeah, to me, this is an opportunity for like a kind of a gut check. And this is what I shared with, Jason, Eddie, Stacy, Kristen, the really active volunteer member so far on the HDC. What does historic preservation mean to you? Is it, if it's preserving the story of, General Pritchard, but that's history preservation. That's not historic preservation when it comes to structures. And I think the state's gonna look at this saying, we don't care if you want to do vinyl windows, we're not even gonna review the application. I think the state's gonna have a hard time saying that your local ordinance complies with PA 169. Now, again, I can be all wrong, but that's why I think you need to have that conversation with SHPO on that. And CLG, we use that term a lot. That's just a program within SHPO. I mean, right now, you guys approved a CDBG grant to help One Enterprises rehab, 2 buildings downtown. We're going through a Section 106 review right now, which is a historic preservation federal review that SHPO is contracted out to do. I mean, they do historic, reviews often. So the CLG just means we're a community that goes above and beyond what the basic, PA 169 requires. And so, that a joint meeting, that might be a good opportunity, so you have more direct conversation.
And my understanding, Joel, was similar to what you just relayed, was that recommendation that you had submitted, which I appreciate that you did that, just so we knew going into making a decision what SHPO's thoughts were about that. I thought they were saying that recommendation, if we went forward, that would disqualify us. And I'm kind of in Peter's vein where I'd like to have, I think a joint meeting would be wonderful to have HDC, SHPO, and us all together, because as it is, if we aren't able to change the standards that we have, because then we, again, fall off or from under their SHPO preview, I would be for getting rid of the ordinance and then looking for a different way if we want to create something new.
Because my question on it is it the standards or is it the lack of permitting process? Because PA 169, 399-205, Section 5 says a permit shall be required. So is it that, just that first one saying that you don't need a permit to do this exterior work? Is that the reason? Or is it because of any changes of standards we choose to say, we're gonna set down to say vinyl's acceptable as long as it looks appropriate? As long as it has the same historic look, it has the same, kind of look, because we've accepted vinyl before in the past, and that was with somebody there that does training on it for my building. And they said, that's fine.
Over on Hubbard.
Yep. So it's not so much the materials, it's, the big issue in historic district has been the changing standards. And maybe we have to set down to say, these are the standards that are acceptable, as you can use modern materials. And if that's allowed, I believe SHPO would say that's allowed. I think it's the lack of permitting of the exterior work. Now, some of that permitting could be taken up by just the simple of, it's a one-for-one replacement. And if our standard is to say vinyl's acceptable, then it can easily just be done through the standard, submit the application, staff can approve it, and we don't even have to have a meeting. It can be done rapidly. So maybe that's more of the reform that would be acceptable to SHPO to maintain that status. I don't know. I don't know the exact reason why they said it wouldn't meet that act. And that's what I really want to find out, is what actually in this proposal doesn't meet the act. Is it just the lack of permitting, but we can change our standards? Then we just look at it from that standpoint and say, let's go that direction if we want to maintain the historic districts.
And I still have issues with the number of properties.
Yeah, the number of properties is still an issue, but that requires us to do a study to get rid of them.
Yep.
Which I would love to get rid of a couple of the neighborhoods or some of the structures that are just like, this is not historic. Why are we forcing these standards and making them do extra steps to do their maintenance?
I guess on that point, one of the things that came up during the study was that we don't actually have, there's a bit of a misconception that there's 400-plus structures that we have listed in the Register of Historic Places. What we actually registered back when the HDC was formed was districts. So there's a Marshall Street district, there's a Pritchard Overlook district, there's a Civic district. What we don't have for those districts is a definition of what makes those districts historic, unique, what qualities do homes within those districts have, what does a home in the Marshall Street district look like? There was the topic of the home that burned down and was ultimately demolished on Marshall Street. And there was a comment made at one point that, oh, well, that's lost its historicness, and so now anything goes. Well, that's not really accurate to what the listing is. It's a Marshall Street district, so whatever goes there should really match the Marshall Street district. What we lack right now as a community for our HDCs is clarity on what is the Marshall Street district. What does a structure within the Marshall Street district require? And so defining that district by district is sort of the role of the community. And CLG acknowledged that our initial application was sort of lacking in those details. We have the guidelines, but we don't have that, here's what a Marshall Street district home looks like. And there's, I think, a few other opportunities to look at public assets. One of the core competencies that I don't see within our current HDC is how do you go about removing a district or removing even a structure, or how you go about adding a new structure. If there was a structure, a public structure that we wanted to make historic in the community and add to the HDC. So I think there's some things to talk about and some options outside of just that, initial letter from the SHPO organization about, and to Peter's point, I don't think that letter was really clear on what the points of contention were from CLG.
So at this point, would we ask staff to see if we can set up a meeting of the two committees along with SHPO?
I'd be in favor of that.
That makes sense.
Staff,
You and I have a joint.
would that
So a joint meeting with SHPO?
go in, yep,
HDC.
and HDC?
We can make it fit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for a roundtable discussion? Did you have anything else, Delora? Okay. All right, so we're going to move on down then to the discussion regarding the operation hours of Downtown Allegan Social District by Scott.
Thank you, Scott. This is lovely to have an update, sorry. It's nice to have an update from the county, I just have to say. So I appreciate it.
Parker, you going to take this one?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely. So as you all know, this body established a social district in downtown Allegan in October of 2020 in an effort to kind of spur some economic development in the midst of the pandemic. Since then, the initial sunset clause with the social district set to end at the end of 2024 statewide through a public act that was passed in March of 2022. Social districts are now here to stay, amongst a list of other things through that public act. That was kind of the key takeaway there. We are at a point now, knowing that the social districts are sticking around. We have intentions to keep them around. We've got great feedback from the bars and breweries that are participating in the social district. No complaints from businesses that allow drinks within their establishments, and no real issues from our police department either. So in your memo, it was reviewed in there that the Sherwood's Cove, the current operating hours of the social district are 11 to 11. Sherwood's Cove opens at 10 a.m. on some days, so there you've got an hour of operation where they're not selling to-go drinks. Similarly, or oppositely maybe, Tantric Down Under recently opened, and they are now open until 2 a.m. So there's a period of time from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. where they are also not selling any to-go drinks. So after the discussion was brought up at our most recent downtown lowdown meeting, Becky Weaver from Sherwood's Cove was the only bar or brewery owner in attendance at that meeting, but she spoke in favor, as did the other business owners who are, have some skin in the game as being allowing drinks with it, not that they're open till 2 a.m. We're going to take this conversation now to the DDA at their meeting on Wednesday. So what we kind of wanted to do is just get some feedback from you, answer any questions if there were any from council, because you'll likely see this at your next meeting for recommendation for change.
I would be in favor to having it open the hours that the establishments are serving alcohol, so it'd be 10 a.m. to 2 a.m., right?
There's a note in there too, and we'll discuss this more with the DDA, about opening up at 7 a.m. Not often, but both Tantric and Sherwood's Cove do offer hours for third shifters. I think Becky's words were, if they call me, I'll open. And Tantric does it periodically. They'll have special Fridays where they'll open up at 7 o'clock
Okay.
for those
in the
third
morning.
shifters too.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I know that used to be a regular thing with Tantric. My Eli and Morgan, my son and daughter-in-law, were working third shift at Perigo every Friday.
Yeah.
They and all their friends went, because, it sounds bad drinking beers at 7 a.m., but that's their schedule. That's the evening for them, yeah.
And same, like you said, Tantric did it regularly, but Sherwood's Cove was also regular, I think almost daily during the week. Both of those establishments changed after the pandemic, so, but as we see a return to normalcy, maybe that's something that will return as well.
I would support that as well, extending those hours.
Yeah, I don't see a problem, and we haven't had any disgruntled problems or any increase in anything like that. I think people
No.
have been very respectful of it, so I don't see a problem. Okay,
Great, thank you. Yeah, like I said, this is something that will be on the DDA's agenda for Wednesday.
okay. Thank you, Parker.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is discussion regarding updates to the City of Allegan's personnel policy. Joel?
Thank you. We want to take a few moments here and talk about some changes that staff is kicking around, making updates to our personnel policy. One is a pretty significant change, and one is just some wordsmithing that needs to be done to go back to how our past practices have been. The big significant one is this idea of offering a bona fide maternity leave. And the only reason I use the word bona fide is a lot of employers require people to use their PTO as maternity leave. This would be in addition to PTO. Not supposedly, but I was informed that earlier this year, one of our workers over in the water utilities approached their supervisor and HR and said, does the city have anything? And the answer was no, and it died right there. And then I believe recently Perigo has established some kind of maternity leave that's made it through the grapevine to me. And as I've looked at other just trends in HR, employee retention and employee attraction, this idea of some kind of additional paid time off of maternity leave keeps coming up. And so I've had an initial conversation with some department heads, initial conversation with Carol Canales, who does our HR and who happens to be, with child right now. And we took a stab at coming up with an idea of an additional 2 weeks that will be, granted to, for maternity leave. And we probably should change the word maternity because if you read the report and you read the language, I actually talk about the father, the guardian leave for, whether it be newborn or newly adopted children, because they both go through the same thing. The criteria we have is, staff must, prearrange with their department supervisor. That is common language for all time off. The child's primary residency must be the same as the primary caregiver. The child must be eligible to be covered by the City of Allegan insurance, and the employee must be an employee for the City of Allegan for at least 6 months. C is important because with all policies and benefits, you want to really kind of handcuff or, drill down to who the real benefit is. We do not intend this to be, an aunt who's going to go help out. We don't intend this to be a grandma who's going to go help out, or a grandpa, or an uncle, or a cousin, or my neighbor across the street. Those are all well-intentioned things, but for this kind of benefit, this is really for the guardian to take that, take some time and not feel the crunch that they have to come back to work. For that 2 week, it is only 2 weeks. That is, internally, I kind of struggle because I'm like, this really isn't a great benefit because people need more than 2 weeks. But it's a step in the right direction. At least that's what I tell myself.
So right now, it might have been in here, do we offer anything for maternity leave?
Nothing.
So they have to use PTO?
They use their PTO and the FMLA, Family Medical Leave
So they
Act.
do have FMLA?
Yeah, everyone, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
okay.
unpaid.
Yeah, you're not getting paid for it.
Oh.
You don't get paid for
you got-
FMLA.
Oh,
That is unpaid, and then your PTO time is what your PTO time is.
oh.
So this is something that, like I said, as I've been, just looking at some HR trends, especially when you look at attraction and retention. I mean, we're very, very, very fortunate here at the City of Allegan. We do not have people leaving in droves, if at all. And when we have job openings, we always have more than enough qualified applicants. So we are an outlier when you look at the employment, situation going on in America right now. And I think this is just another opportunity for the city to tell our employees, hey, not every employee is going to benefit from it. I'm pretty sure I will never benefit from this. But, this is another kind of, tool in our toolbox when we look at, recruiting or retaining people. And I need to know if council's okay with this, because if you're okay with this idea, the next step is it goes off to our labor attorney, and he makes it, he rewrites it so it's written the way it needs to be written for employee policies.
Is this benefit just for the first year of the child? I don't really see it in here. It just says paid leave for work once per year, specifically for the activity of caring for a newborn or newly adopted child. Is this like time limited to the first year? Is it not? What's the?
So
limiting
the
factor?
intention is time limited. So when I use the words at the first sentence, and again, this is why I need to send it off to, a
I'm just
labor
looking for the
attorney.
intent, and when we go to the labor lawyer, then we'll get that intent back from the
Yeah.
policy, so.
Yeah.
Is the intent for like a year?
The intent is the first year, the immediacy of receiving the child, whether it's born or adopted. But it goes now, it's not when the child is 8 months old and you want to take 2 weeks off at that time. Unless you see a benefit to that and council wants to,
Well, I would just say it would be the first year of them being the primary caregiver.
at any
and not
time during
just-
that first year. We can do that.
Because otherwise, because they may have, the husband will take his first 2 weeks and she'll take her, so it's not like you immediately have to take it after they're born,
I see what you're saying.
taking it, and then husband may say, well, I'll take the next 2 weeks because I have that available.
I think FMLA gives a window like that as well, and I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, it's just that that's the unpaid part, everybody gets FMLA, but if,
But I was thinking
yeah.
we might mirror their.
mirror theirs, but that's, the labor lawyer will advise. I'm just looking for what our intent is, so staff can communicate that to the labor lawyer, and we'll get back that.
I would tell you, the intent is not when they're age 5 and they're going to kindergarten for the first time and you need 2 weeks off for that. The intent is the newborn or the newly adopted within that time frame. And if it's within the first year of that child being part of the family, then we can write it that way, within the first 6 months, however,
Yeah, I would say a year would be a little bit lengthy, but
Yeah,
first 3
that's what I would
months,
say. I would, yeah.
I got 3 months. I would be fine with a year because you can always have medical issues come up, and that first year is the biggest year for that.
Well, we also have PTO for that.
Oh, you have your regular PTO, I'm just saying.
Exactly, yeah.
I was just gonna mention, first of all, I think this is a fantastic idea, and I liked that it said all staff, so I just want to make sure that it is not just maternity leave, but that paternity is also included in that purpose
Correct.
statement. The only question I did have was on number C. It says they need to be eligible to be covered. That is not requiring that they are covered, correct?
correct.
Okay, so they could be covered by
Yep.
their other parent that works elsewhere,
Yep.
but as long as they could be eligible. Okay.
But grandchildren, per our insurance policy, grandchildren can never be covered
Right.
unless the grandchild is
Is
a
a
dependent.
Yep.
The grandparent is a guardian of that child.
Yeah, otherwise, I think this is great. I think it's really important, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of paid maternity and paternity leave in healthcare, but I can if you want me to.
Yeah, I also, I'm very grateful that staff has brought this, and seeing that most other developed countries in the world offer months of maternity and paternity leave. I think this is a step in the right direction. Wish all companies and healthcare plans would offer this, but yeah, I think this is good for our employees. One specific employee in particular currently, but hopefully others in the future as well.
I'm supportive as well. I'd probably be supportive of more time too.
Yeah, I would as well.
Okay, moving on, if nobody else has anything else. Next on the agenda is discussion regarding the.
No, I have one more policy that I would like to change.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm
You're
sorry.
good, you're good, you're
No,
good,
no,
you're good.
Knew that,
So,
sorry.
this one deals with holidays and holiday pay, and specifically for regular part-time employees. So right now, we have one regular part-time employee. She works at the front desk at City Hall. She has a set schedule. Every once in a while, we flex some hours to cover some shifts. If someone has to be off for a day for a doctor's appointment, she'll come in on an off day, but typically she is here for these 3 days, 8 hours a day, 24 hours a day. Past practice was,
Right,
what?
Wait, a shift, 24 hours.
24.
Yeah, 24 hours a week, thank you. Historically, if a recognized holiday fell on one of your scheduled days, you were compensated for that, just because City Hall closed, we didn't want to take money out of your pocket. However, the way the policy was written was all part-time employees got paid on that day, regardless if they were scheduled or not scheduled. So we would like to go back to, we'd like to rewrite the policy to follow our practice. which is if you're supposed to work on a Friday and we have it off because it's Christmas Eve, you get paid 8 hours. But if that Christmas Eve was on a Thursday and you're headed off anyways, you wouldn't get that holiday pay. So that's what that language accomplishes. The one thing I do want to point out, the very last sentence in the bottom right-hand corner where it says to work on a recognized city holiday shall be paid 8 hours of holiday pay. We're going to change that. You will be paid your hours worked in holiday pay. Because sometimes your scheduled hours are 4 hours a day. They're not 8 hours. Right now, it just happens to be 8 hours for that employee. So we do need to, that was pointed out to me this morning in our department head meeting when we were reviewing and preparing for tonight's meeting, that we didn't correct that part. So we need to correct that part. Any questions about this? Yes.
I noticed on here when I was reviewing this that they would only get paid if they worked the day before and the day after the holiday. Is that practice?
So that is practice typically, so employees do not call in sick the day before a holiday.
But if they have regularly scheduled, like if they have scheduled time off during that time?
They're okay if they have scheduled time off.
Okay,
But what you don't want to do is, for example, for like our wastewater or DPW, where we need a minimum staffing, we need skeleton staffing at all times. And, these 3 guys got in their vacation request early, and this guy or this person is not happy and has the flu the day before the holiday. And you have to have that kind of language in there, that if you're going to get your holiday pay, you have to work your regularly scheduled shift.
okay. The other thing is, since we're discussing holidays, there has been a change in some of the observed holidays. So I know that when we first did the holiday change, we were mimicking the county's holidays. So the county recently added Juneteenth, but took Columbus Day off the holiday schedule. I looked, and the state of Michigan is the same, so they have Juneteenth, but they don't have Columbus Day. So I don't know if that's something that we want to mimic, or if we're going to add Juneteenth. I just wanted to bring that up since we were discussing this policy.
Sure, just to give a little more background on how we mimic the county holidays. When we wrote this policy in 2020, we added 3 holidays and we added 4 holidays and took away a holiday to mimic the counties. So, Commissioner Anderson, or Councilmember Anderson is correct. It was to mimic the county because the frustrations that our front desk staff would have when people would, show up here wondering why the county was closed and can they help, whatever service they were looking for at the county building. So it just made sense to go on one schedule. And now that the county this year, they announced that they are eliminating Columbus Day as a paid holiday for their employees, but they're adding Juneteenth as a paid holiday. So they're keeping the number of holidays the same. They're just moving them around.
So I don't know how everyone feels about that, if we wanted to make a change to what the holidays observed are. I know that there have been some places that have added Juneteenth, but most that I'm aware of have taken Columbus Day out to add that, so.
I would be very much in support of adopting Juneteenth. I think we should also adopt Indigenous Peoples' Day, but that might be a battle for another day.
I agree with you, Roger. But that would be an added paid day. So that would be the only issue, is if we wanted to keep the number of holidays the same and again, be in parallel with the county and with the state.
So I would stick with Juneteenth.
Seems appropriate to align with the county. If that was what our policy was designed to do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sole reason why we did all those additional holidays, was just to align, with the county.
Agreed.
Okay, so I'm seeing more than 4 shaking their heads. So we will put that as part of our, because the holidays are listed in the personnel book. We'll put that into it, and we'll bring several changes, 3 changes now for you to consider, at the next meeting. It would be my recommendation that we just make this one motion, though, to adopt the changes to or do you guys want them separated, 3 separate motions?
I think one is fine, yeah.
Okay. I just want to, make sure things are smooth.
Doesn't matter, we can always split it up if we want.
Yes, you can. That is correct.
Okay, all set with that one? Now we can move on. Discussion regarding the fiscal year 2024 budget strategic planning meeting schedule. Joel?
Sure, this was on here, just a quick reminder for council. This is the schedule, the way it's gonna work on Friday and Saturday. Should be no new surprises. This is the way it's been the past couple of years. For Saturday, we do have responses from all the chairs of all the advisory committees that that are listed on the screen there. The Airport Advisory Board, Jason Apol, who is the vice chair, maybe? You haven't had your January meeting, so. He will be representing the airport because Andy Millen was out of town that day. And then the mayor, you will be leaving at noon,
On Saturday.
okay?
Yep.
So if you have any questions about the schedule, it's probably best now to, have that dialogue. If there's something you're hoping to get out of this meeting, like if you want staff to present something, please share that with us, hopefully prior to Friday, so we have time to put that information together. The departments more or less are just gonna go over what they accomplished last year and what they'd like to accomplish in the upcoming year. But then it's also the perfect time for the dialogue to happen. A comment that was made this morning is, how come I have to give my data? I give my data to you on that monthly report. And then another department goes, yeah, but this is a good opportunity for us just to talk with the council members. So they enjoy having that conversation with the council members at that time. And then Michaela's passed out all the menus. They made their way back, so hopefully everyone wrote down what they wanted on the individual menus. And we'll have, little bowls of candy, throughout the day as well at the tables.
Tootsie Pops.
Tootsie Pops. Like the sucker.
Yeah.
All right, Michaela, you got to know?
I do.
No,
love-
it's on the list now.
I love Tootsie Pops as well, Bill. I'm with you.
It's on the list. When council member Inglesby was on the board, it was Dove's Dark Chocolate. I did not know that it was Dove's Dark Chocolate. I just thought it was Dove's Chocolate. Guess what? It was Dove's Dark Chocolate is what she wanted on in those bowls.
You may, ma'am.
Joel, I really enjoy when you do an update for where we are in like the goal progress, because, we've got our goals that just went into effect July 1. So to kind of see where we're at and to see if this is something that needs to be a conversation to continue into.
So this afternoon we're discussing, and Parker goes, you have to write those goals down and give an update for every single goal. I'm like, I don't do that. He goes, yeah, you do. So, excellent. Yeah, I got two birds on two different shoulders telling me how it should be done. Yeah, we will most definitely will do that. Would you guys also like it typed out so you can see it as well?
In duplicate.
In duplicate? I can do that. I can do that, Bill. Just for you, though.
I'm kidding.
You're gonna get two copies, my friend.
You better not.
I won't. So, yeah, we will most definitely, go over that. A lot of our goals are multi-year goals. A lot of our goals, lack of a better phrase, are, I don't want to say feel-good statements, but aspirational, and we just continue, this is who we want to be. They're not like a SMART goal where they're specific and measurable, realistic, timely, achievable kind of things, but they're just, we're going to do, economic development. We're always going to be looking for well-planned housing. We're not going to give up on that ever, I don't think.
That's on my list. Already got my list made out.
Excellent.
Overall, I think the process that we've used over the last few years has worked well. I don't know if anyone has any.
I don't know, I think the nice single act play put on by staff demonstrating the goals achieved and not achieved rather than just a written report.
I'll vote for that.
Nice.
You're the director, Peter.
I said by staff, they're saying what
We'll
goals
make
they've
Roger the
accomplished.
producer.
Okay. Next is the review of the council agenda. Did we have any changes on that, you guys? So it is as is. Okay. Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about? Have we got time?
Ordinances, when are we gonna go over those?
Yes, that
And do
last
we have
meeting.
information on them that we could look at them beforehand?
Or do you want?
I'm sorry, I should have brought that up during the roundtable.
No,
Oh,
you're
that's
fine.
I was
fine.
tongue-tied.
We got plenty of time, so you're
Yeah.
fine.
Good time.
I was tongue-tied.
Yep. So last year, a group of council members, Mike Zeter, Peter Hans, and Delore Andrus, worked with Michaela and myself and some department heads and reviewed all 30 chapters. I think the only chapter we didn't review was the historic district preservation and maybe the cemetery one, because that was already being cooked between public spaces and city council. As they went through those, they made notes, comments, suggestions. Those have now been shared with the city attorney. And Michaela and I are working with the city attorney to come up with what I'm going to call first draft of changes.
Okay,
So
That's
that-
for the council to look over?
That's for the council to look over.
Okay.
So our plan of action moving forward is we meet every other week with Nick Curcio. We do a conference call or, web call. We're gonna do the ordinances reviews in groups of 10 is what we're thinking. Instead of one at a time, just have a group of them. We're gonna share them with the subcommittee first, make sure they're comfortable with all the changes where all the words, fell in, and then we're gonna put them on the study session.
My biggest concern is the action on them, to have them, taken care of, people actually working on them.
So, we can talk about code enforcement now.
That's the word I wanted.
That's all right. Code enforcement,
Because we've been
since
lacking that tremendously.
we've been dropping the ball in some areas in that, with code enforcement. When I first came here, we hired a community development coordinator, Jordan Maher. He did some good work, got one house completely cleaned up that was an eyesore coming into town. The garage was just collapsing, and it's been like that for about 15 years, because I remember it on my commutes from Holland to Kalamazoo. And he worked with the property owners and got that taken care of. When Jordan left to go to Wyoming, Chris Tapper took over and did his own kind of code enforcement. And then the police department, when Chris left, the police department took it over with Tony Cicito. And Tony was our code enforcement officer, also got some things accomplished. And I can just share with you now, over the Christmas break, as we were just thinking, because that's the time when you can do a lot of thinking, and our desire to grow Michaela, we've assigned Michaela to develop a code enforcement program. So we have standard operating procedures, boxes you check, this is how you do it. Michaela, I, Jay Gibson, and Josh Morgan and Ryan Berza met this morning. They've already started into this process. So we're hoping when the spring gets here, you're gonna see a lot better results in the code enforcement. So, yeah. That is where we are in that process. Creating a real code enforcement program with, letter templates, that holds people accountable. In our current ordinances, some violations are misdemeanors, which is criminal. Some are civil infractions. We're changing them all to civil infractions to make the ticket writing easier. We have something bureau that's already been established in our ordinances that is here at City Hall. So people can pay their civil infractions here at City Hall. That's already established. We have no record of if the city's ever organized that or set up a process. So, if John Doe on 123, Allegan Lane doesn't clean up his junk, right now, we go through blight remediation, and we send out a service to clean up the junk for him, and then we send him the bill, he doesn't pay it, we put it on his taxes. But we do not have a civil infraction, component as part of that. We just do our single lot assessment process. So we're hoping to,
Is that within the ordinances that you're
Yeah.
doing? Okay.
yep, so that's within the ordinances. And then I'll just share from my own personal opinion and professional. We can have all the rules on the books on telling people how to live, but some people just have deeper things going on in their lives that they aren't going to fix the peeling paint on their house. And some people are like, well, yeah, it's money, it costs money. Sometimes it's more than just money. Sometimes they just got deeper things going on that's bigger than what the city per se could do. And, how you tread that line or walk that line is, can be a delicate one. With the code enforcement, as we talked about, rental housing inspections. So I reached out, got a quote from a third-party firm because PCI's made it very clear, just like they made it clear in 2016 when the city fired Michigan Township Services and hired PCI. They will not do rental inspections. That is a program they do not do. So I got another quote from another company. They said they would do it if they also get all of our building inspection programs as well. And they charge 50% more than what PCI charges. I can't wrap my head around bringing forth a recommendation that we increase our fees by 50%. So to that end, I have begun having conversations with Fire Chief Nick Brink. In other small towns, I've been informed that they rely on their volunteer firefighter departments to do rental inspections. Firefighters understand life, safety, general welfare. So if council wants to restart the rental inspection program, there might be an opportunity there where the city contracts with the fire district. We'll have revenue coming in from rental registration, and then we'll have expenses going out for the, for the inspections. Right now, we're just having conversations. Because I believe the rental inspection program is something we need to wrap our head around on Park.
Used to be the landlords paid for the rental
They do,
inspections.
they do. Yep, that's the way it would work here. On Park Avenue, which I believe, we have 3 parks, so I apologize. The water treatment plant Park Avenue, I'm pretty sure it's Park Avenue. We had a house that had an electrical fire. It was contained, it was put out. The fire inspection report says you have to get an electrical permit and upgrade your electrical. And then that landlord went in and just told the homeowner, I'm gonna replace the stove, you're fine. Or not the homeowner, but the tenant, I'm gonna replace the stove, you're fine. And the tenant goes, I don't think this is the way this is supposed to work. He goes, well, if your headlight goes out on your Mercedes, you're not gonna get rid of your Mercedes, you're just gonna fix the headlight. And the tenant has moved out of that, unit because he's not comfortable renting from that. But the tenant called me and said, the city's got to be able to do so. Someone has to, this isn't right, is it? I go, doesn't sound right. So I got PCI involved, and I got Nick involved, and they've gone in and placarded that house. But if you don't have a formal rental inspection program going, where you can put the fees on, the re-inspections, and really hold that landlord's feet to the fire, it becomes, difficult. I'm not a big fan of rental inspection programs, to be honest, but I see a severe need in this community for one.
Too.
And I think I've gotten enough council members over the past 3 years saying, figure this one out. It's not an easy one to figure out. But
Doesn't the state do something like that?
no. So the state does,
Of places where the state has come in and inspected the rental ones because they wanted to do, the renters wanted to have Section 8 or something like that.
so the state, probably through MISTA, if they get
I know
low,
it is. They come in,
if they get
they do
low
an
income housing
inspection.
tax credits.
They tell the landlord they have to fix this. Landlord says, I'm not gonna do that, you're evicted. I've seen it happen twice now.
Okay. I know through the low-income housing tax credit, and which used to be called Section 8, it's now Housing Choice Vouchers.
Yeah.
They can qualify for the state inspection, and a lot of local landlords do not like that because the city's inspection is usually a little more,
Lenient.
no, the city is a little bit harder than what the state is. And so the non-Section 8 landlords are like, we're being, treated unfairly. For both landlords, we both should have to be inspected the same way. But that is, finding a housing inspector to do it is the process, and then working with the fire district. House numbers on houses is one of the things you check off when you do a housing inspection. They have a verifiable interest in that houses have house numbers on them, from the fire department's perspective. Someone calls 911, they want to be able to see what house they're going to, so.
Could that also be rolled into the fire inspections that we were supposed to start but really haven't?
Fire inspections, so like, they wanted to do change of use inspections a
No,
couple
it's
years ago.
like commercial buildings. They came around one year and said,
Yep.
we're gonna start doing fire inspections, the fire chief and all them, and I've yet to see them ever
Haven't
come
seen 'em.
back.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, could it be part of that same program, is when you're doing the housing, the rental inspection, you're doing probably a fire inspection too, looking for smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, all that at the same time.
yeah, that is something we can discuss. I know there is a big, I know they walked around, I had quite a few commercial business owners contact me and say, what's going on? It wasn't well received by quite a few commercial business owners, and I'm like, I'm sure they have their code they can stand on, they're independent from the city. And I go, this isn't a city thing, so.
Well, I'm just saying, they're supposed to start it. A lot of us who got that first walk around were like, well, we did our upgrades and made sure we have our stuff. The other one would be in our rentals. If we want to have rental registration, do they have any different fire requirements, such as a lot of cities will put in, if it's a rental unit, they have to have central smoke detectors that are interconnected? Would we want to address that at the same time, that if it's going to be a rental or residential rental, that they have interconnected smoke detectors and not just?
Yeah,
That was, when I was in Mount Pleasant, that's what they came around and inspected the apartments. That was the fire department that did it, for the rental inspections, and when they did, that was one of the main things that they were looking for, was fire safety and, general health and welfare safety type stuff.
in my previous city I lived in, it wasn't just rentals.
It was everybody, I know how.
Every house in Holland had to have interconnected, hardwired, battery backed up smoke detectors, and the house could not be sold unless at closing, you had to have a city certificate.
Yeah, I remember the program. My sister
Every
had to deal
electric
with it.
permit, if you pulled an electric permit to change out a GFI outlet, you had to wire your smoke detectors together.
I'm talking just specifically for rentals.
Rentals, yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, I think those are all good conversations for, the council to have to see how far you want to go. With everything, at the end of the day, there is, the cost to get it going. So that's always, something we need to be, just cognizant of.
And how we'd roll it out, so it's rolled out not so haphazard, where all of a sudden we're showing up at people's rentals and saying we're doing inspections,
Yeah.
and you're required, we gotta give some notice to the landlords, and then give kind of what the standards are gonna be that they're gonna be checking, and say, this program's starting in X amount of time, here's your time to make sure that you're up to snuff before we start coming out doing these inspections. So it's not just we're starting this tomorrow, we're showing up tomorrow, and if it had like a smoke detector requirement, it gives them time to implement it, whether it's a year or 2 years, whatever we want to set down in the rollout of an inspection program.
Does that answer your,
Kinda.
I kind of took us down a rabbit hole, so I apologize.
Oh,
for
no,
that.
that's not a problem. I have a huge rabbit hole that I'd like to take us down on this ordinance enforcement and everything else. Part of the problem with the rental stuff is complying with those certain things, and landlords aren't doing it. They just want the cash cow. And it's a shame that they have to be forced to do those things, to keep them up and be compliant with things, to make it safe for our residents. We, as a council, that is part of our, what we're supposed to be doing, is making it safe for our
Yep.
residents. I think you should have some kind of, if you're thinking about doing something like that, is maybe have a committee set up together to go over that, to see what we want to do, to meet with these landlords. But that's up to you guys. That's just my feeling. I mean, I have lots of people that have come up to me and said, well, how come there's just so much junk around this community? And you and I and Parker and Jay went running around, and 48% of that was rental. So we can clear up half of it by taking care of that.
Yep.
The same landlord. Most of
Pardon me?
it, most of it the same landlord.
Yes. Landlords that aren't here in the community even. Maybe based in Hamilton or wherever, so.
Yep.
So, again,
Florida.
it's going, I mean, so for the past couple of years, council has said we should do this, but we have a new council now that I think you're a little more, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but a little more pointed on, you know, or passionate, like, this is a priority. Let's not stop
Well,
skirting the issue.
And I
Let's
think,
attack the issue.
and I think this is kind of what started the review of the ordinances, if I recall.
If I remember right.
Because we didn't have black and white ordinances. And there was so much, you could construe our ordinances however you want to interpret it differently. So I think that's what started a lot of this. So once we approve what we have, then we can start enforcing different, along with working on the, you know, the blight one and whatever we decide to do there, the rental, whatever, you know.
I, as a landlord, didn't ever have a problem with getting inspected. It gave me a chance, oh, I missed that, you know? That was my attitude towards it, not, oh my God, I gotta do this again. You know, there's two kinds of attitudes.
I'm with you.
Right. Okay.
Sorry.
You're fine, you're fine, we got time. Anything else? All right, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna adjourn this meeting at 6:37, and we'll reconvene at 7 o'clock with the regular meeting. Chair.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, if I could ask everyone to please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda, we have the 4A, approval of the regular city council meeting agenda for January 9th, 2023.
I move to approve.
Second.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, approval of minutes. 5A, approval of the study session minutes from December 27th, 2022 council meeting. Did you guys receive anything on that?
I so move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, 5B, approval of the regular meeting minutes from December 27th, 2022 council meeting. Anything on that? Okay. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, number 8, public hearings and adoption of ordinance. We have 8A, the second reading, public hearing and adoption of ordinance 505 to rezone parcel 51-240-035-00 from the PGL Public and Government Lands zoning district to R2 single-family residential. Joel?
Thank you, Mayor. This evening is your second reading on a zoning map change for a vacant parcel on North Main Street, otherwise known as 837, heading out of town. This parcel is located to the rear of the former Northward Elementary School. Our current zoning has this for public and government lands at PGL. Cindy Thiel, who is the applicant, is interested in putting a house back on this property. A house was there previously. There's a curb cut as well as water and sewer that run up and down Main Street, so it is accessible by utilities. The Planning Commission reviewed this at their December meeting. Looking at the master plan, they are recommending that the City Council rezone this from PGL to R2. This does require a public hearing for this evening since it was noticed. Any questions?
Okay, seeing no questions. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:03. No public. Close the public hearing at 7:03. So, any questions from council? Okay,
I'll make
Entertain
a
that
motion
one.
to approve ordinance 505.
I'll support.
it has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 9 is public comment. Seeing no comment, we'll move on down to number 11, reports from boards and commissions and city offices. 11B1, is request to approve accounts payable and payroll. Roger, would you please take that?
I would be happy to, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
We have accounts payable in the amount of $245,955.59 and payroll in the amount of $146,983.08 for a total disbursement of $392,938.67. Motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign, or all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Was there any questions? I didn't ask if anybody had any questions for staff. Okay. Next on the agenda is 11D1, request to approve a purchase order for Wade Trim for an engineering inspection for the Eastern Avenue lift station in the amount of $16,000. Doug?
Yes, this was reviewed at the last council meeting pre-session. This is to have our engineer and the firm Wade Trim come in with a confined space entry crew and inspect the Eastern Avenue lift station, the wet well, the piping, to see if there's more damage and what recommendation they would have moving forward for any repairs to the lift station.
Anybody have any questions for Doug?
Only question is, are we gonna do water samples from there, from the discharge into that lift station to?
So they are required to test daily for certain parameters, monthly for certain parameters. What we feel is causing most of this is either pH issues, which is monitored continuously, and then could be hydrogen sulfide, but the wastewater moves through the lift station so fast, we don't feel that there's time really for the hydrogen sulfide to occur, to form and cause the degradation. And then especially being inside the pipe, what damage we already experienced, that would be caused by something that is being discharged. So we're back to the pH. So it's a matter that, watching them closer, just, trying to identify what they're discharging and when.
Do we have in our wastewater ordinance a maximum or minimum pH for the
Oh, yes.
discharge? Okay.
Yep.
Just make sure
11
we're covered.
max, 11 and a half max, 6 minimum.
All right, that's all.
Okay, could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 11D2, request to approve a purchase order for Wade Trim for engineering services for pipe replacement at the water treatment plant in the amount of $16,000.
Yep, this again is
Doug?
for our engineer and firm to, with the water plant, with the pipe breakage we had a few weeks ago. We don't really want to just put PVC back in there. With Eagle coming in, they're recommending that we look at it, and their request to, if we change material, that it has to be permitted through, section 399. So we just felt, let's bring our engineer in. He'll look at the whole pipe there, if any type of pressure relief valve or vibration is, fittings are needed in that, and then, replace that section with stainless, and then there's one other section on the, what would be the raw water system that is still PVC. We wanna have that included in the bid to basically make it all stainless on the influent or raw water side, so that hopefully we don't experience this type of breakage again.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Any questions?
I just have a quick question, Doug. I do appreciate in your reports that you let us know whether this is in the budget or if it requires a budget adjustment. So I see that these last two, and moving forward, we have some more budget adjustments. Can you just give me a quick glance of where this is putting our reserves at? Or
I would have to look at it, but, I know,
still
talk
pretty
with Tracy.
healthy, or?
We're fine with our fund balance in water, and the lift station would be sewer. Depending on how the lift station turns out, what is found, we might go back on Perigo again and ask for reimbursement. So the expenses that we had on the repairs from the pipe leakage and breakage at the lift station, we invoice Perigo for that entire amount, including staff time. So, because right in our ordinance, it specifies any damage caused by discharge can be billed back to the person responsible for that discharge. So, obviously, the Eastern Avenue one, we didn't expect that, not in the budget. This one here, pipes 75-year life or better, we didn't expect it at this point. So, it's not identified in the asset management, so it's not in the budget, so.
Thank you. I just know we've got some big projects coming
Yep.
up where we're transferring some of that out.
Yep.
So I want to make sure that we're still at a healthy level.
The 16,000 shouldn't be a problem. The question will be when we get bids in for replacing the pipe. You know, I think that the fund balance will be there, but it will just make things that much tighter.
Just a question on that topic. I know we've got that Excel spreadsheet that estimates maintenance costs.
Yep.
Did this not get covered in that, or do we need to adjust that?
Because it's listed as like a 75-year item, the costs don't get included in a 20-year budget.
Okay. It just seems like, so are we done with our maintenance budget for the year already? Because it's only about halfway through the fiscal year.
No, the water plant, that has plenty of maintenance budget, repair and replacement. That's for, I'll say, items that are identified in a 20-year plan in the asset management plan. Replacement of this pipe, it's listed as 75 years. It doesn't even put a cost in there because nothing is expected for many years.
I think I understand. So we've still got maintenance money in the budget.
Yes.
As we,
Yeah, so, in the budget, there's two line items. General maintenance, which is just stuff that comes up every year. Then there's a repair and replacement line item, which the asset management plan says this much money should be put in there for to cover equipment repairs or replacement in the next 20 years. The asset management plan takes everything that we think it would happen in the next 20 years, adds it up, divides it by 20, and says this is how much should be in that line each year. When things unexpectedly break that are listed in that 20-year window, we take money out of that to repair it. If there's still money in that line item at the end of the year, that goes into a reserve fund balance for asset repair and replacement. An example would be painting water towers. You know, they cost $150,000 to $175,000 to paint. We're not gonna fund that or put money away for that all in 1 year, so $20,000 a year goes into that line, doesn't get spent, goes into the fund balance, and when we have to paint a water tower, it's there to paint.
great, thank you for that explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion, please.
I'll move to approve the purchase order for the pipe replacement engineering.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next is 11D3, request to approve a purchase order for East Jordan for water main pipe and fittings for the upcoming M89, M40 Hubbard Street roundabout construction project in the amount of $26,613.65 plus shipping.
Yes, so, we all know about the downtown streetscape project. With the roundabout project that will be starting in 2024, they will be working on Hubbard Street from M89 to Walnut Street. Part of that's the roundabout realignment. But while they're in there, we asked the sewer, they're lining the sewer, and then we want new water main put down underneath that street, match up with what, Milbacher will be doing on the rest of Hubbard Street. MDOT's concern with their project is from when they bid it, award the bid, start construction, end construction, the contractor that gets the bid won't have time enough to receive the pipe that's ordered. Right now, ductile iron water main is taking about 50 to 52 weeks for delivery. So they asked, the engineers far enough along, they know what pipe is needed. They asked if the city could go ahead and purchase that pipe, and we purchase it now. It'll be here this coming fall, winter, and on site for when the contractor starts next year, that the pipe is ready for him to install. So, this was listed as not in the budget. It's listed in the capital improvement for next year with, the roundabout. So it's essentially, it will be in the budget that we'll be working on in the next couple months. So what will happen is Tracy will just have to book that money back to this year instead of leaving it in this coming year.
So will we pay for them? Am I gonna ask questions?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember what I was gonna ask you. So will we pay for it, pay for the materials when we order them, or when we receive them in 6 months?
I believe it's when we receive them. So it may end up not even being in this budget. Some of the materials are in stock and can be shipped right away. The pipe is the big item, the expensive item, and obviously the long-term item that will take a while. So majority of the cost may not be until next budget year anyways.
Great.
Anything else? Okay, if I could get a motion, please.
I'll move to approve.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 11D4, request to approve the proposal and purchase order for Fleis Vandenbrink to help administer the Wellhead Protection Plan in the amount of $15,000.
This is, Fleis Vandenbrink has been our engineer since we started a wellhead protection program. They help us to administer it, hold the meetings, help us fill out the grants to get money for the next year, to do more work with it, to hold the meetings. They also help us to fill out the request for grant disbursement each quarter. In the proposal, it lists a few items for this year that we want to just continue work on what ordinance covers the wellhead protection. We're planning, we would like to attend a planning commission because they're kind of over that ordinance for the city. And then also some promotional and educational outreach materials. We want to try and do a design, create a brochure for Allegan that can be given out that promotes wellhead protection for the city water supply.
Thank you, Doug. Any questions? Okay, could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Next is 11F, City Manager and City Clerk. 11F1 is a request to approve the 2023 city-sponsored event schedule. Parker, are you going to take this?
I will.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, so each year, at the start of the year, we present to you a list of proposed downtown Allegan events that the Positively Allegan Board puts together for the year. They're referred to as Positively Allegan. They do business as Downtown Allegan, if that's what that look was for.
No.
Okay. All right, right on. So just to clear up that confusion, we only refer to Positively Allegan when we're talking about that board. So these are the list of Downtown Allegan events, beginning with Rollin' on the River, which takes place every Friday, June through August. Bridge Fest on the second Saturday in June. Fork in the Road, a food truck rally, which starts the Monday following those two events and runs through the end of August. July through Jubilee. Sidewalk sales, the last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of July. Small Business Saturday, which is a nationally recognized event, but we like to spotlight it, and that takes place the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Festive Fridays, there are 4 this year, from December 1st to December 22nd before Christmas. And of course, we cap it off with NYE 24. So we just need council's approval for this slate of events, and also included in your packet was the rat card, a double-sided piece of literature that'll go out once approved and printed, and we'll have available throughout the year.
Did you do the event card?
What's that?
Is the event card yours?
Yes,
It's good.
unless it's bad. Then
No, it's good. I like the tile look with the pictures. It looks good.
Thank you.
Better than just the bulleted statements, really sharp.
Okay, can we get a motion, please?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Parker.
Thank you.
Okay, Next on the agenda is communication from city manager and council and mayor. Staff, do you have anything?
I have nothing.
New Year's Eve was a great time. If you were there, hopefully you got to enjoy the party a little bit. If you weren't, I'm sure you were woken up at the stroke of midnight by the fireworks. But it was a great event. The weather was perfect. We earmarked around the same number of people that we've had in years past, but they certainly turned out a lot earlier than normal. Usually people are kind of getting down there between 10:30 and 11, but people showed up before the 8 p.m. start time even to enjoy the pictures of the ball and get some food, and we had music pumping at that point because people started showing up. So it was a really, really great event.
Thank you, Parker. Doug, do you have anything else?
Just if council wanted any update on the water main break on the Iron Bridge, I would be happy to answer questions, otherwise it is fixed at this time.
Wasn't gonna bring it up.
Just to,
My guys will probably shoot me because that day at break time, I mentioned something that, oh, we had cold weather last week and we didn't have any water main breaks. And at 3 o'clock that day, we get a phone call.
Nice.
From my wife. Jenny caught it.
just to clarify the resolution on that, did we abandon that water main then?
Yes, so part of our reliability study that we have on the water system, that's where an engineer looks at the entire water system, makes recommendations how we can improve it. And a lot of it is like fire flows and just flow throughout the city for fire flows and pressures. One of their recommendations for many years has been to abandon the water main on the Iron Bridge. It was actually planned to abandon it during our street state construction because they're putting a new water main down State Street. So we were just going to end up abandoning it, going across the bridge, and we'll have a dead end there with a hydrant that we can flush periodically. So really, we shut a valve off on the Marshall Street side and expose the pipe. We had to shut off the area downtown for the boil water alert. That's why we issued that. And then cut and cap the pipe. So that will still get replaced during the upcoming project, but it's already been abandoned, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, Bill, do you have anything?
Buy your lotto ticket.
Right. Dave?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Laura?
The only thing I have is somebody had mentioned there's a dip in front of the bridge. So like as you're getting ready to go over the bridge, there's like a dip in the pavement. So I don't know if.
On the Marshall Street side?
Yeah,
So the water leak
Was
did
that because of
undermine
that?
the street.
okay,
I know my guys went there and they packed a bunch of asphalt millings underneath there, but I'm guessing that'll probably be something that'll have to be addressed this spring.
okay.
Possibly the asphalt cut out and, repacked underneath there.
Okay. Just wanted it to be on somebody's radar because I'm afraid it will just get worse, especially with the winter weather.
Winner, yeah. Thank you. Mike, do you have anything? No. Peter?
Nope.
Roger.
Just echo what Parker said. Kudos to city staff for New Year's Eve. It's always one of the greatest parties of the year, and this one was the same. It was a blast, and there were a ton of people down there.
Thank you. I guess I don't have anything other than Happy New Year, everyone. Okay. Oh, yes, see you Friday. Yeah, right, and Saturday, yeah.
Yes, 5 to 5:30.
We'll save your dinner for you, Bill. We'll save your dinner. All right, we were worried when when Doug got back up to the microphone, but we made it. We were trying to get out of here by 7:30, so. If there's, we were, especially when Doug stepped back up to the microphone.
He first showed up like he gets something, goes, actually, I do have something to say.
You did beautifully.
Every time he looks at me is an indication that I go longer.
That you're. All right, if there is nothing else, we're going to adjourn this meeting at 7:25. Thank you.
Well,